Hey everyone, I'm Krista Novisky. Welcome back to Best Health Positively. And if you're new here, we talk all things health with short mini episodes that drop twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays. So feel free to visit the podcast website. The link is here in the show notes. And if you click follow, you'll get a reminder on those days when the new episodes are released. And you can also message me through that podcast website too. So feel free to do that. I'd love to hear from you. And today we're talking about the importance of being more present. And I know it sounds cliche because we hear so much about it these days. And I did an episode along similar lines about a month or so ago, Living in the Now. And that was more focused on why it's important to focus on being present. And the benefits we get from living with more presence. But this episode is more focused on the how, because let's face it, it's easy to say it. Just, quote, be more present. But what does that mean exactly? So the bottom line is we need to talk about some specific actions to take to accomplish this. And I think everyone agrees that it's something that's much needed. I mean, you look around wherever you go. Everyone's got their head buried in a phone. Even walking. When I'm on campus, I see lots of people walking with their head down in their phone. So we've become so used to it, to being entertained or occupied. No matter what we're doing, we basically have entertainment, at our fingertips. So we all agree it's a good thing to find our way back to being more present. But I'm the first to admit that this can be hard to do. And before we get into it, I think it's important to note that our brains are not meant to multitask. I mean, people often explain away their phone use while doing something else as, quote, multitasking. But when we're multitasking, we're really not doing any one thing, any particular task well. So it's pretty obvious. We're locked into our phone. When we're doing that, we're checking notifications or scrolling. When we're doing those things, we certainly aren't fully focused on the people around us. So we've established this. It's needed. Now, I want to share a story here and talk more about the specific action steps, but I really want to tell you how I decided I wanted to talk about this today. I observed a situation the other day that reminded me how important this is. I was walking at the park on the trails, and there was a woman walking with her son, and her son seemed to be 7 or 8 years old, and she had earbuds in and was talking on her phone. And every now and then, the boy would try to say something to her, and she didn't respond because obviously she was in the middle of a conversation with someone. And after a few tries to talk to her with no reply, the kid would scream out, kind of making an annoying, dramatic noise, but it was pretty obvious that he was trying to get her attention. And when he would scream out, of course, she would stop and say, "Stop it," to the boy. And then she'd get back into her conversation she was having. And then the same pattern would repeat itself. The boy would try to talk to her, she didn't respond, and then he'd scream out. And so it went. And when I saw this, I was really upset at first, like mad. But then it left me feeling sad. I'll admit, my first thought was a critical one. Why isn't she paying attention to her son? But then I started to think about how easy it is to get trapped into these patterns where we're so connected to our phones. It was clear that she was really wrapped up into the conversation she was having. I mean, the bottom line here is it's really easy to see it in someone else. So it also really made me think about myself, though. I mean, my son's not little anymore, so I don't find myself in this specific kind of situation. But when am I guilty of being wrapped up in my phone when there are people around that I should be giving my attention to? It really made me think. And it made me want to try a little harder to make the people in front of me, no matter who they are, to make the people in front of me be the priority over whatever's on my phone. Because time passes so fast, I've heard people say this all my life, and oftentimes it seemed so cliche. Yeah. But now I really find that it's true. And maybe you can relate to this. Time passes way too quickly. So why wouldn't I want to try to be more present in the moments to improve my just personal interactions through the day, not to mention my personal relationships, and just going through our days to really see more and experience more, because that's what happens when we're more fully present. So that sounds great, right? How do we do this? So let's dig in a little here. First, decide on one time in your day. Now, start with one time, and then you can, of course, add more. Decide on one time in your day that you can practice being still or quiet, where you're not plugged in. So think about your day and when that moment may be for you. Now, for me, I'd say that moment might be when I'm in my car, commuting, or waiting in line, or walking. For you, it might be while you're waiting to pick up your kids from soccer practice, for example. It'll be different for each of us, but think about your day and identify a specific time where you can practice some stillness or quiet. Second, practice awareness with your breath. This is a great place to start with the breath. It sounds almost too easy, but just when you're in your moment, whatever time that is that you choose, when you're in your moment of stillness or quiet, tune in entirely to your breath. Feel air coming in, and then be aware when you're breathing air out. And just be fully conscious of that process, this automatic process that's taking place all day long, and we rarely take time to appreciate it. And just become fully aware of your breathing. And then third, practice this same awareness that you just practiced with your breath with something else. And I think the easiest place to start is with something in nature, whether it's the sky or a flower or a tree or the breeze, or maybe just sitting in the grass, and just notice every detail about it. Really focus your attention in on one thing. Or if you'd rather, it could be focusing your full awareness on a person as they're talking, really looking at them and listening, and just being fully there in the moment. Or it could be with a pet. So there are different options, but the goal is to be fully aware with whatever it is that you choose. You're giving the same level of awareness that you just had with your breathing to something else. So you're taking it one step further. So I'd encourage you to give this a try using these 3 easy steps. 1, decide on a time in your day to practice stillness or quiet. 2, focus that complete awareness on your breathing. And then 3, practice that same awareness with something else, where you're all in on something in nature, a person, a pet, something beside your breathing. Now, what you'll notice is that as you practice this stillness and awareness, you will get better at it. It's actually a skill to be learned, and with practice, of course, you get better. That makes sense, right? You'll notice then that this spills over, and you naturally become more aware and engaged in your interactions and relationships. And this is what will add more value and meaning to your experiences every day, to your life. Now, I will say one thing that'll make this much easier for sure, and you've guessed it, is to plan some time to disconnect from your phone. For example, maybe start leaving it away when you're with other people, or putting it aside at dinner if you're not already doing that. Obviously, this will make things much, much easier. So I've got to say, watching that little boy compete for his mom's attention, like I said, really made me kind of sad. But it also made me think a lot, and it made me think about ways that I can do better. Like I said, it's so obvious when we see it in someone else. So I'm going to work on this. Anyone here want to join me? I would love to hear your ideas, or maybe you have a story to share along these lines. Please reach out. You can message me through the links in the show notes, or you can email me at kristanavisky@gmail.com. And I'm going to ask you a favor here too. Will you please consider sharing this episode? You can share the link with someone you know who needs to hear this too. So take care, guys. I will see you here again next time.